Marine veteran Sarah Ford grew up in Texas, so it makes sense that after getting out, she founded a cowboy boot company. Sarah shares her entrepreneurial story and how she started Ranch Road Boots. Coming up next on Veteran on the Move.
Welcome to Veteran on the Move. If you're a veteran in transition, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone still stuck in that JOB trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. And now, your host, Joe Crane.
All right, Sarah Ford from Ranch Road Boots. Welcome to Veteran on the Move. Thanks for being here and sharing your entrepreneurial story. Before we get to talking about business and entrepreneurship, take us back and tell us what you did in the Marine Corps.
Hi, Joe. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I did logistics in the Marine Corps. I joined in August of 2001. So it was a pretty interesting time while I was in the Marine Corps. September 11th happened when I was at the basic school, and I got stationed in 29 Palms. So I was in Iraq pretty quickly after getting to the fleet. And I was a logistics officer. I had material readiness company right at the end of my first tour. And then I got recalled once in 2007 and went to Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne.
Awesome. And so talk about when you got out and then you got mobilized again. Like what was your transition like, and what were you looking to do and trying to figure out what you're going to do after the Marine Corps?
Yeah, well, so my SPC, Kevin Kelly, left. He got out of the Marines. He went to Harvard Business School. So I was living with like 6 lieutenants in a house in 29 Palms. And we were all, we'd put our stuff in storage, come back, get a house, put our stuff in storage, go deploy. And then it was just back and forth. So I was rolling up on my EAS, which was February 2005. And in like November of 2005, I thought, well, I'll go be like a project manager for a home builder. That sounded fun to me. And it was kind of the housing market was all taken off at that point too. And Kevin Kelly went to Harvard Business School when he got out of the Marines, my SPC. So I was like, well, Kevin's at HBS. I should take a look at that. And so I looked at their website and I was like, wow, that looks fun. So I was like, I'm going to apply to Harvard. And I knew I didn't have time to apply to multiple business schools. So I kind of, I studied for the GMAT basically in this chaos of this house with all these guys. And then basically took the GMAT and got my score and then did my application for HBS, and then found out after I got out of the Marines, I found out I had an interview, and that's where I went. And it was going to business school after you get out of the Marines, I think is a very gentle, kind of a 2-year gentle landing coming out of the military. So it was really, nice to have that transition in that time period. So that's what I did.
Yeah. So, you're originally from Texas. And by the way, before we started this interview, I had Alexa play Take Me to Texas by George Strait, so I get in the right mood here. And obviously, country music and cowboy boots and everything have been a part of your life growing up. How did you actually get started with Ranch Road Boots? And when you came up with a business idea, was it still did it happen while you were in Harvard Business School, or how did all that come about?
My dad's an entrepreneur. I was always raised with kind of like that mindset of it's okay. You don't have like a steady paycheck coming in. It's like he was a home builder and a developer in San Angelo, Texas. And my grandfather was a cowboy, and so they valued education. So it's like we had to go to college. Graduate school was kind of expected at some point. Although my dad really he hated me to go to Harvard. He wanted me to go to Texas somewhere. And
of course,
yeah, he was like, "Did you even apply to UT?" So anyway, so I forgot what your question was, Joe.
How'd you actually come up with the idea for Ranch Road Boots and get started in it?
Yeah. So basically, I got out of Harvard Business School and went to work for Boston Consulting Group. And while I was at my second year of HBS, I'd gotten recalled into the Marine Corps. So BCG let me go to Afghanistan and then come back and start my job with them. So I was not at BCG very long. I stayed there about a year, like kind of on paper, it's like over 2 years, but really my time spent consulting was about a year. And it is a great company. But I was always like kind of I was much more drawn to like the entrepreneurial world than the consulting world. And I left BCG to go work for a friend of mine's dad that had a biogas business. So he was getting that off the ground, CH4 biogas. And while, we're still trying to cobble together like financing and all that. And I got a phone call from another Marine friend from HBS that had he said, hey, do you want to be the vice president of sales for my car company? So I went and worked for him for a couple of years. And in about a year and a half into that, we were doing crowdsourcing for automotive design, and like Nike was doing Nike ID where you design your own shoes. And I had bought a couple pair of custom cowboy boots that took 2 years to get. And I was like, man, if we could just take this and put it online, I can have like this community of shoe designers and people can buy the shoes off just other people's designs, like basically kind of like Nike ID does for running shoes. I wanted to do for cowboy boots. So that's really how I got into doing cowboy boots. I was from the automotive world, but it was more of the online like crowd like background. This is the reason I started it.
Yeah. So now you're out of the Marine Corps and you're running your own entrepreneurial venture, and actually you're a military spouse now, with your own military experience yourself. So where are you at with Ranch Road Boots, and how far have you come? Like, walk us through a little bit of that.
So I started it in 2012. In 2014, we added a ready-to-wear line. And I realized pretty quickly that custom boots are not scalable. So we couldn't make enough of them to really build a big business. There's not enough boot makers in Texas to have a giant company, or they all already work for like the bigger companies that are out there. So that was like the first pivot. I got a phone call from the former owner of Fry that was like, I love what you're doing. Have you thought about ready to wear, which just means we carry boots, inventory of standard sizes, and we sell them to people. So in 2014, I did a Kickstarter. It was very mediocre, which I was not shocked about because I don't think Kickstarter buyers are necessarily cowboy boot buyers, but it did get me attention from a veterans business battle group in Houston that said, why don't you come compete in this? And they were talking about like $1 million to the people that came. So it wasn't one of these like $20,000 business competitions. It was enough money to make it what I felt like kind of worth it to try to enter. And I won like the crowd favorite, and we cobbled together financing. And with that, I bought like our first, 100 and something pairs of boots. And so I've gone like, I've finally, very kind of embarrassingly late to the game, decided this needs to kind of be total e-commerce business. And I have tried a lot of different things like pop-up shops in Houston with our boot saloons. And now we are solely focused on e-commerce sales, which is, you can be selling a lot of different things. It's a little bit formulaic. And the silver lining of being married to a Marine now is that I move a lot, and it's kind of forced me to really focus on e-commerce. So about a year and a half ago, that's what I knew I had to start getting good at. So it's taken me about 5 going on 6 years to really, I feel like, hit my stride in a place that we're scalable and we can grow, and we've got like a lot of momentum. And that, that's okay. I'm sure we'll keep changing. I'm not scared to change, and I'm the one making decisions. And so I'm really comfortable because of the Marine Corps of going with 80% info and, just making a decision and moving with it. So we change pretty quickly. Some may say a little too knee jerk, but I don't keep doing, if something's failing, I don't keep doing it for more than a month or two. And then we change stuff.
All right, Sarah, we'll hold on just a second. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Have you joined the Veteran on the Move Facebook group? I personally invite every guest that I have on the podcast to join the group. So the Veteran on the Move Facebook group is a great way to connect with previous podcast guests. Our Facebook group will keep you in touch with other veterans that are transitioning to entrepreneurship, and you will also get great updates and free guides on the people, programs, and resources that will help you in your transition to entrepreneurship. All right, we're back talking with Marine veteran Sarah Ford from Ranch Road Boots. So, Sarah, you've led us into where you've come all the way up to where you are now with Ranch Road Boots, and the business is working and it's functioning, and you're making some money and you're selling boots. What are your biggest struggles now, actually trying to grow this strong base of a business that you've developed into a much larger, profitable business?
Well, an old timer in Phoenix told me if you don't have $1 million of revenue, you really don't have a business, because there's not enough money at the end of the day to cover all your bills and have enough cash left over to grow. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people argue that point, but I 100% agree with it. We need to get to $1 million of revenue in a pretty short time frame. And that's my goal. And I know when we get to 1 million, then we're going to want to get to 5 million or 10 million. And so it's like right now, it's like, don't die and, keep growing. And cash is always the big killer in our business, because if you're doubling in sales for shoes, you have to have tomorrow's sales in inventory today. And so trying to figure out how to smartly finance the business is hard. And in the early days, like 2 years ago, I was like, the best times to raise money are before your business starts, when it's just an idea and you can get other people excited about your idea, or when you're just crushing it and then everybody wants to give you money. And so when you bootstrap it and then you're like, okay, now we need to go raise financing to get to the next point, it can be harder to raise it when you're in that seed stage, but you already have some business. So now I'm trying to figure out our next big round of financing, whether it should be debt or equity or really how to structure that. And that's right now what I'm smack in the middle of.
Yeah, no kidding. So, in addition to the ins and outs and mechanics of running a business, you're spending a huge portion of your time trying to raise money, trying to find the right people.
Right. So, and it's you can't drop sales to go do that, because sales are the most important thing. So it's I don't care if people that are more analytical, really comfortable with, I'm going to set up the process and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the design. And it's you guys got to get out there and sell stuff, because that solves all sorts of problems. If you've got revenue coming in. So that's the most important thing. And then there's probably 5 other things that are equally important. And that's one of them, financing is in the next 5 that are all kind of the same level of importance, but really revenue inbound is the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any good entrepreneur watches Shark Tank at least once in a while, but how many people actually show up on Shark Tank and they haven't even made any sales yet? Some of them have made 0 sales. How did they make it that far in the selection process to make it there? They have because nobody wants to talk to you if you haven't made sales.
Well, or it's they all want to get in on the early great idea. And so if you can convince somebody that you're the person and this is the product or service, then I would argue it's almost a better time than if you have what somebody may consider to be ho-hum revenue.
Well, it might be a better opportunity, but there's very few investors. I mean, maybe you've run across a few of them, but most people have to see sales at least a little bit in the beginning before they're even interested. But there are people that do get in on the ground floor kind of stuff, but usually those are what we refer to as FFF, friends, family, and fools. Yeah. So you have gotten some seed money. You have generated a little bit of investment into the business early on to get you to this point, and now you're trying to figure out how to get to the next step.
Yes. And so, yeah, that's basically where we're at. I don't, it's like our fourth quarter is obviously hugely important for a footwear business. And so it's like, I don't want to raise it in September. I'd rather raise it in January after the fourth quarter is like done. Mm-hmm. But I have to buy all the inventory in June, July. So I learned so much. Like I'm kind of learning. It's like bolting the seats in when the jet takes off type of thing.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, everything can't be perfect before you step off, but learn as you go. So, I mean, you've been able to keep your head above water at least most of the time throughout the process, and you're figuring it out as you go. But that is one of the big issues with a product type business is how do you got to fund the product first and then go sell it. And then you have to wait for it to sell to get your money back to go out and buy more. And there's almost never enough money to keep selling more and expanding.
Or you could you can be comfortable with slower growth too. Like that's another option. That's what I struggle with. Like, because we could finance it and be content to just have a much slower growth trajectory, which is stressful in its own, like for an ambitious person, that's stressful. But then also having, big money and big debt and all that is stressful for a whole different reason. So it's like kind of a struggle day to day to figure out where we're at in that spectrum.
Now, as far as, veterans are concerned and mill spouses, what kind of programs, resources have you discovered out there along the way that have helped you?
Picking up the phone and being able to call other Marines is hands down like the best network. It's not why I joined the Marine Corps, but I loved Harvard. I loved my alumni classmates from Harvard. I pick up the phone and call them, but my peers are the Marine Corps, and so many of them are in business, and just having my peers in the Marine Corps have been the biggest help. I mean, after meeting you, I've already met like 3 other people that various, Rosie Network, Stephanie at Rosie Network's very helpful. Timothy Day is a big mentor of mine. He owned Bar S Hot Dogs. And I mean, it's just like these your Marine friends, you guys will always answer the phone when somebody's calling.
That is. And we've talked about networking extensively on previous episodes, and sometimes people in general, but specifically talking about veterans, have a misconception about networking. I'm not going to show up to a networking event so I can meet a specific person and try to have them give me a specific job. That's not what networking is all about. It's about building relationships over time and wanting to know people just for the sake of knowing them, not necessarily because you want something from them. If you already think you want something specifically from a certain person and that's why you're contacting them, usually it's not the best time to start the relationship. But one of my old bosses said, he was very social. He said, I always go out of my way to know people because I want to know them before I actually need something from them.
Yeah.
It makes it's very subtle, but it's very powerful. The first time you're talking to somebody is when you need something from them. You've kind of missed the boat. So
yeah, it's uncomfortable too, and it's like I've been to veteran networking events in Houston when we were selling boots there, and I've been in the boat where it's like, God, I just need a job. I'm worried about money and I just need a job. And so that's an uncomfortable place to be in. But God, if you just have energy and you're willing to work hard, just get your foot in the door at a company that if you want to work for somebody else, just get your foot in the door and just make yourself useful. And you're going to grow from there and figure out what the next thing is. Like people just, they're desperate for good people. We have in the past, really tried to hire veterans for salespeople and all that. I hire a lot of mill spouses for bookkeeping and photography type of work too. And I know it's scary. If you're out looking for a job and you don't have anything, but it's don't don't think something's beneath you. Just take it. And then once you get your foot in the door, make yourself totally invaluable to the place, and you're going to grow. And then you're going to be in a better position to jump on to something that's maybe more of your dream job too.
Absolutely. And as far as jobs are concerned, it's always easier to find a job when you have a job. When you're unemployed, makes it much more difficult. And me personally, there's a lot of different theories on this. I think it's always easier to start a business when you have a job or you have income and you're able to, and you've got your bills covered. It's much easier to start a job, because if you're worried about the electricity being cut off, it's really tough to be in that entrepreneurial mindset.
I'm certainly fortunate to be married to an active duty Marine, because I don't worry about the electricity. I don't worry about healthcare costs. My husband he met me when I started Ranch Road Boots in into 2011, beginning of 2012, and he's still kind of waiting on that to pay off for him. The whole Harvard thing.
It's hilarious.
Because I didn't have a real paycheck since then. So he's been building this business, but certainly having his support and not having to worry about electricity type stuff bills has really freed me up to have the opportunity to try this.
Absolutely, and plus you're juggling being a mom and doing all the other stuff associated with married life and family life. Yeah. So I certainly can relate. But I think there is something to be said for struggling a little bit, or if you were extremely comfortable financially and had all the money you needed to throw at the business, that's a position to be in. That it's not much of a luxury that most of us have. At some point, you got to go all in with it if it's ever going to grow, beyond you. And and you seems like you're about at that point. I mean, you're all in. I mean, you spend an inordinate amount of time working this, and this is all you're doing, other than keeping the home fires burning. So you're all in at this point, but you don't have all the income coming in. Everything you're making is being poured back into the business. So you're feeling the heat. You're feeling the heat enough you're like, hey, I got to make some stuff happen here.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, my husband's lieutenant colonel now. He can't stay in the Marine Corps forever. Like at some point, he's gonna have to move on. And I sure would like to be able to have offer him some flexibility in his job choice. And I would love to move back to San Angelo, Texas, also. And I'd take enough money out to basically cover daycare and then taxes on the money I take out. So the rest of it goes back in. And so I feel like a whole lot of pressure and just from an ego standpoint, a personal ego, it's like, I've been working at this and I'm like stubborn and I want it to work. Like, so I haven't known you for long. You've given me some good nuggets along the way already. And I don't know, I think you told me it is like, you don't want to work, you don't want to work at your business, you want to work it. And so that's been kind of really clarifying in the past week as I move our entire warehouse to Amazon for fulfillment and stuff, really trying to look at it in a very pragmatic way. Because each one of these boots that goes out, I like hand wrap and look at. It's like a baby, and it's maybe an unhealthy connection with your inventory.
That's funny. Sending off one of my babies again.
Yeah, I hope they like it. Good luck.
Oh my. So I want to go back a little bit from the very beginning. Like, how did you decide, okay, like, did you decide and design the first pair of boots? I mean, you started out with the custom thing, I guess, so you kind of got into it with people's input and opinion, but how does one go about designing a pair of cowboy boots? Like, I'm going to make a boots like this. Yeah,
design's pretty, for me, design is a pretty quick process. And it's more of the sampling and getting the designs in the right time, which is stuff I've learned. Like, you got to order boots for the fall. Like, you got to be designing them like in January. And so that's a fairly quick process. Having a great factory and great technical people around me really helps. And I started driving around Texas, stopping and talking to bootmakers, and they have also been very helpful for me for like picking our lasts, which is basically what makes a boot comfortable or uncomfortable. And then having Stan from Fry in the early days help select factories. All that has really been critical in our success. And then design is just like, a lot of it's just an art, a sense of what I think is going to sell in the market that I'm trying to sell it to, and to the customer I'm going to sell it to, and looking what's out there and kind of trying to fill in some holes, and then being smart enough to realize like, hey, e-commerce is like the cowboy boot industry has some huge legacy costs that they're fighting right now, and they're not doing, it's not super healthy. And the companies that are healthy are the ones that are selling direct to consumer online. And so just, being able like to react quickly. So, design, it's like, that's pretty fast. If I could design all day, that'd be a nice luxury, but it's a fairly quick part of what I do in a year.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Like 2 days last week, I went to Las Vegas to a shoe show and sat down and did 6 pair of boots, like fast. We're doing a whole collection of Marine Corps boots back to 1775, 1776. So my Marine Corps came alive, right? And so we took pictures of all the boots at the museum, and we're updating them for more street style. So, and then I've got some new zip up men's cowboy boots coming out too. So all that is like really fast. Like those take a couple days, but it's been kind of a year of sampling and stuff. So, it's a fun part of the job, but unfortunately it's not what I get to do a ton of.
I mean, how do you, what are you basing your information off of to say like, oh, I saw that there's like an Instagram or YouTube video of you on your website where you're holding up one of those Marine Corps older style boots. And like, how do you know like, oh, this boot will sell? I mean, I guess you don't know for sure until it actually happens, but how do you know to commit to it?
You don't. I mean, you don't so I'll put them out there, and this goes back to inventory. It's like, you got to kill the stuff that's not moving. So I have a gut feeling on things and an eye for aesthetics of it because of where I grew up. And I've lived all over in some, towns that they're pretty sophisticated people and dressers, and they're not from Texas. So I try to make boots too that people aren't feeling like they're getting dressed up like a cowboy, but also make them in for guys that are diehard cowboy boot wearers, that they're going to feel comfortable in them too.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of like, you make all these samples, and then you say this one, and then here's what we got to change on it. And then you invest in the inventory. And if I've been doing pre-sales, so I get a sense for if something's strong or not before we really go all in on the inventory. And then you get it though, and it's like some stuff's slow moving, and you need to kind of cull it out, and you keep making the stuff that's selling, and then you sell off the stuff that's not, and then reinvest the money. So you don't know. Stanley told me the only original ideas in footwear are the ones that don't sell, and otherwise everybody's kind of like, copying each other, which I don't think is. I don't really worry about people copying us because it's like, you just got to constantly come up with fresh stuff, and some of it's going to stick and some of it's going to not stick. But a lot of people are, very paranoid about their designs and stuff. And it's like, come on, let's just keep moving fast and try to stay ahead of stuff.
Throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yep, basically.
I mean, how often do you have a new boot design that like it doesn't do anything at all?
I got one. I'm not going to name it by name.
Sure, but it has happened. But fortunately, it doesn't happen on that often. I mean, I guess you got a percentage of.
Well, the big shoe that sales vendors will have like hundreds, and then the buyers come and then they pick maybe 10%, and that's what they buy. And so then those maybe 10% will sell like super strong, probably 30% are dogs. And then the rest are kind of like, okay, they're pretty good. But like, it's like, it narrows down like that. And for my business, I don't have the buyers to validate certain designs. I work with I work with people that have been in the cowboy boot industry since or footwear, not just cowboy boot, but footwear industry since the 70s. And they are really important to me too. And they're in New York and Brooklyn and Spain. And so I get their input because we all see like fresh stuff that's coming too. So, anyway, it's exciting.
Yeah, like the trends and stuff. I was really disappointed when I heard a couple months ago that cargo shorts are no longer in style anymore. So it's like really bumming me out because I like put my stuff on my sides of my leg, especially after being in the Marine Corps, man. I get used to cargo pockets. I don't like the pockets in the front.
You can always go fanny pack. And we kind of go counter to what's in style right now. Like we don't make big square toe boots for guys, and a lot of guys like that's what they're wearing. My gamble is that they are. People say they're comfortable. That's why they're not going out. But a boot shouldn't be uncomfortable just because it's not a square toe. But we don't make square toe boots, and that's what's selling in Texas right now. So I am kind of contrarian about that.
Interesting, huh? Well, so unfortunately, we're getting towards the end of our time, Sarah. I do want to give you a chance for a shout out for your company. So, how do we find Ranch Road Boots? And if there's anybody listening out there that wants to get a hold of you, maybe veteran, mill spouse, for some entrepreneurial advice, how would they go about finding
I love to talk to people. Yeah, I love to talk to people about business and any business. I just am pretty fascinated about it. Ranch Road Boots is just that on the website. It's our website. And then Instagram, we're big on Ranch Road Boots too. So those are the two best places. And it's sales at Ranch Road Boots or Sarah with an H at Ranch Road Boots. If you want to contact me directly, a lot of people have helped me out along the way. And so I feel pretty strongly about answering every email that comes in myself and try to do it within 24 to 48 hours too. So, and hit me up too. If you're a veteran and want cowboy boots, we have some good discount codes for you too.
Awesome. Okay. Sounds great. One last thing. If you're talking to that veteran or somebody that's still in, a soon to be veteran, military spouse, and they're looking to get into entrepreneurship, or maybe they're already part of the way into something, what kind of advice would you have for them? What comes to mind when you're talking to somebody that's at the beginning?
Somebody told me, a classmate of mine, he was a Canadian, it's like a venture capitalist, I think, private equity, one of those two. Anyway, he was like, just try to sell 50 pair of boots. And just try to sell 50 of if it makes sense to do 50 unit, just take a unit number and sell that. And what that means is that you have a whole lot set up on the back end in order to enable you to do that too. So that was kind of my marching orders from the beginning. And I think it's just great advice. Don't get too wrapped up in a business plan and all that stuff. I mean, it's helpful to jot some things down. It's almost like a to-do list, but just try to go sell your product and see if people like it. And you're off to the races at that point.
That's awesome. All right, Sarah. Well, unfortunately, we're about out of time. So I look forward to seeing your future success. And I know with your steadfastness and devotion and motivation, stick-to-itiveness, you will eventually succeed. I mean, you're gonna push through, and you're already a big success. You've probably overcome the biggest obstacles already. You just you're waiting for that opportunity and to get a little more momentum going, and then all of a sudden we'll be reading about you in the Wall Street Journal and everywhere else.
I'll keep trying to get in the fall 50. That's where I want to be.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me on. And we're thinking about everybody in Houston. If you have listeners in the Houston area too, so I want to make mention of that. They're all in our minds out here in 29 Palms, California.
Yes, this episode's airing about mid-late October at this point, and I'm sure they'll all still be reeling from the cleanup and everything that's going on there. I'm watching it constantly on the news and the Weather Channel. It's just amazing what's happened down there. And as we're doing this interview, Louisiana is next, and Far East Texas is still getting hammered. So it's unbelievable what's going on down there.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bet. We look forward to seeing your future success. So, all right, these two Marines are Oscar Mike. As you can tell from listening to the Veteran on the Move podcast, interviews are a great way to tell your story and spread the word about your business. If you would like to get booked as a podcast guest, I recommend Interview Valet. You can check out Interview Valet at veteranonthemove.com/valet. Be sure to check out Thrive15.com, the world's premier online education platform that helps entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs learn how to start or grow a successful business. Start your free 30-day membership by going to Thrive15.com and use the promo code VETERAN. Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.